Hello guys, 38 here. Had the Ford Fusion Energi for 2 years, starting pretty much now. And I decided I want to do 2 parts on this car. There are going to be things that I love about this car, that I really enjoy about this car, and there are going to be things I really dislike about this car. Some of these things are going to be petty and weird and stupid things that some of you may find, so what? You know, it's just a little quirk. But this is just basically just to give you an idea of the things that I think are great and bad about this car. And in this video, we're going to do what I love about this car. First, one of the things I really love about this car is Ford's price range, which is about a $35,000 car, although with all the leasing deal options you can tend to get with this sometimes, it's actually a great deal sometimes. It's a sense of isolation in this car. This car is pretty quiet on the inside. It's very smooth on the road. It feels like a much more expensive car. As some of you may have seen when I changed the air filter, the internal air filter, cabin air filter for the car, there were actually foam stickers in between the clips in order to keep anything from rattling. So this car maintains a pretty quiet ride. It's very comfortable on the road, very smooth. These tires are very smooth on the road, and overall tire noise is pretty low. Engine noise is not too bad, especially for a hybrid that ends up, that can, do its droning, which this car will drone at times. But I gotta say, the number one thing I gotta say is the overall atmosphere in this cabin of driving, it's very quiet, very smooth, very much like a nice long cruiser car. Another thing that I love about the Ford Fusion Energi is the radio. And I'm a very big stickler on radios. It's not that the radio has a particularly excellent sound or anything, but for the normal average person who gets in this car, it's got a CD player. It can handle your Android Auto. It can handle your Apple CarPlay, all of that kind of stuff. And the sound is actually pretty reasonably good, and it plays just about everything evenly. You do have to pump up the treble and the mid-range because it's a little on the bassy side. But for the average person, the radio on this car is going to be very good. And it's going to give you some great sound. So I think you get in there, you're going to really enjoy that aspect of this car. Another thing I really like about this car is the gas mileage. If you drive the correct routes, and if you use your system correctly, using electricity at the right times versus just letting the car choose it, you can easily obtain 65 mile per gallon tanks on this car easily with proper driving. And when I'm taking 65 miles, I'm talking about regular driving. I'm not talking somebody who drives around the city all the time in electric mode, nonstop, and that's all they do. Then they're going to have massively high numbers. I'm talking about just driving to work and back, which I do, which is about 42 miles each way. I can average up to 65 miles to the gallon during the summertime. Right now, it's gotten a bit cooler, and I'm right now averaging on this particular tank about 58 miles to the gallon, but that's still excellent for how much cooler it is out there. So gas mileage is definitely a big plus on this car, which also leads to the fact that it has up to 24 miles of electric range, which means literally you can drive this car on all electric when you're doing your chores and so forth, your days off. If you have a short commute, you're basically going to plug it in overnight, and you go out, go to work, come back, plug it in, and you're done. And you can basically run this car all on electricity. So it's another thing I kind of like about this car, which is going to be a very funny thing overall, is the computer system. The main reason I like the computer system in this car is that it never crashes, ever. It always works. And I'm going to leave it at that caveat. I've never had a crash with this computer system. I've been able to do my my Android Auto without problems, without any weird bugs, without any weird freezes, nothing. It always works. That's one reason I like the computer system, and I give it an A+ for its reliability. Another thing I really like on the Ford Fusion Energi are the heated seats and the heated steering wheel. Being a diabetic, I get cold very easily, and the heated seat on this particular car and the heated steering on this car are very good. They're very warm. The steering heats up very nicely, warms up my hands very nicely, and the seats heat up very quickly, and you can really basically just ride very comfortably in this car with just the heated seats and the heated steering going on cool days versus, you know, very cold days, in which case you have to run the rest of it. So great heated seats, great heated cooling. Another thing I love, and something I really love about this car, is the accuracy of the radar. I drive on cruise control constantly, on the adaptive cruise control, constantly on this car. And this car's radar is, as far as I can tell, in general driving, even in city driving, is about a 99% accurate in responding to stopped cars. Cars that are just stopped in the middle of the road while you're driving, pedestrians, bicycles, things, objects in the road, it will recognize stopped objects very easily, something that I can't say about all cars I have. But this car is incredibly accurate, making this car feel very safe when driving around with the radar systems. And another aspect of that is the cruise control. When using the adaptive cruise control, you can literally control your speed completely through your adaptive cruise control. Now, everyone's saying, well, that's typical. You know, of course you can. But one thing I like about this car is many cruise controls, you go downhill, and yeah, like on my other car, they'll give a little bit of the regenerative braking, but not enough to slow it down to the correct speed. This car, right now, I'm going downhill. I'm set to 40. It's gotten up to 42, and now it's engaging more of the regenerative braking, and it's slowing it down to 40. So this car will literally maintain its speed very well, which makes it very interesting that if you're driving, say on the expressway, and I'm getting into a long run exit, I literally can use the cruise control, hold down my set button to let it lower the speed, and it'll go lower the speed all the way down. And if, let's say, you're going from 70, you lower it down to 30 very quickly, the car will quickly slow down. It won't slam on its brake, but it will quickly slow down all on its own, engaging the brakes too, which is nice. The brake lights do engage so people know behind you, and you literally don't have to even touch the pedals at any point while driving the car. You can literally, except when you come into a, you know, complete stop at a light or something like that, you can literally control all your speed with your cruise control, and the car stays on speed very well. Another thing I love about the safety systems on this car is the emergency tone red light that's up on the dash. Some people would find this obnoxious, and if it went off every 5 seconds for everything, it would be obnoxious. And it has gone off, it has gotten a little too, you know, when there's nothing that bad. But most of the time, when it goes off, you're in a situation where things could get a little hairy. And what's nice is when that emergency tone goes off, the bright light catches your attention, the radio lowers its volume. I mean, something as simple as just lowering your volume, I mean, lowers the volume so you can hear everything, and so your attention is directly on the road. That system's actually saved me from that, and the auto braking system that actually saved me from whacking into somebody because I was stupidly talking to somebody next to me for a second, looked away, and all of a sudden here's and boom, the car, you know, started hitting its brake. I hit the brakes too, but when I let my foot off the brakes would stayed on for an extra 2 seconds because the car had also engaged autonomous braking. So I love that aspect of this car. Okay, another thing I really enjoy or like about the Ford Fusion Energi is the GPS system that's built in this car. The actual GPS map system is actually very good. I've never seen it before. I'm not familiar with the brand and so forth. I'm not even going to get into it. You can watch my discussions on the GPS and a whole original video that I did on the GPS in this car. But it shows you your speed limit. I know nothing special about it, but just the way it presents itself. It can go in split screen, or it opens into, it can be running split screen all the time, or it opens into a full screen situation. And I find it has all the point of interest seem to be in there. It's easy to find stuff, and it's very accurate. A lot of them are not accurate. It also, makes the little ding sound when it's time for you to turn. That actually, surprisingly, can be very helpful. I can't tell you how many times when you look at the GPS and it's hard to tell which is your exact turn. Even though it's got a line, showing you the way, it's still the other roads that are nearby and they're close, and you look at them, you can't really tell. It tends to ding and it lets you know when it's time to turn. So it's actually pretty cool little GPS, and it's an absolute fantastic thing about this car. Another thing, this would be a little quirk type thing, but I really love about this car. We've all heard of the rear view mirror that mirrors that have brightness control for people who drive up. Either their trucks are behind you with bright lights, or someone's got their brights on there behind you, and it tends to dim down the lights. This car also has that same aspect in the side view mirrors as well, which can save your butt quite a bit with all these bright lights out there. It may not seem like much, but it's nice to have all the bright lights that are behind you dimmed down so you're not distracted by them, or you're not blinded by them reflecting off your mirrors, and so forth. So, right. Another thing I've always loved about this car is the looks. It's a good looking car on the outside. Interior wise, it's okay. It's got nice looking seats and so forth, but the front end of this car has got that Aston Martin look, and Aston Martin, like the DB5, and just all of them on that face. It's just got a great front end on this car. Obviously, it's a lot of people feel that way because the Ford Fusion series, they're all over the place, and they've sold everywhere. So I like the looks, the external looks of this car. The tail end kind of mediocre, but the front end of this car, great looking car. I don't get a lot of, wow, look at that car, because everybody has a Ford Fusion out there apparently. But it's definitely a good looking car. Another small little quirk aspect of this car that I actually like quite a bit, I like the dual screens on the instrument panel. It would have been great if the whole thing were LCD, but I mean that's a little high end for the design of this car and so forth. But it has a left screen and a right screen, and the left screen seems to deal mostly with your settings, mostly with mileage and gas, power, your radar system, and the right has to do more with entertainment, GPS, also a little bit more on your mileage and so forth. But they're two different sides, and you basically can set up two different settings of what you want. That way you can have your entertainment, like what song is playing and so forth, showing on one side, and the other side will still have all this other information you want. It won't interrupt anything. So I think that's also a real nice aspect of this car. Another thing that I really love about this car is the blind spot monitoring, which is pretty standard. It works just fine. But the cross traffic alert. Cross traffic alert really will let you know if somebody, like if you're trying to pull out a parking space and somebody's coming from your left or right, or a person's coming from your left and right. It'll cut down the volume of your radio. If you got your radio blasted, it'll go dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, like that. I cannot tell you how many times that has saved me from backing into somebody, especially since this car's visibility sucks. So, gotta give major props to that aspect of the technology of this car. And that, I'm going to say, is just about everything I really love about the Ford Fusion Energi. Great car, very smooth on the road, great cruiser, and great gas mileage. And that'll be it for today. Verdier out.